You're very welcome. I have the beautiful Jen Rock beside me here. I have never done a live with someone right beside me.
I know, especially because I suppose lives became so huge during lockdown. And we did one before, and I never say, so I'm very excited to be here in your beautiful podcast studio. So when I say we're multi-jobbing, multi-talented.
Absolutely. I was telling one of my clients today that we were going to my podcast studio. I was like, I don't own it. I rent it by the hour.
No, it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And
so we're doing our live, and we're going to do a podcast. There'll be lots of snippets and lots of ways for you to learn all things.
We're hoping that we get loads of aha moments.
We will. No pressure.
No pressure. No pressure. So let me introduce myself because we hope to share this on Jennifer's page, and you may not be familiar, and then I'm sure you all know Jennifer, but I'd like her to introduce herself too. My name is Karina Tolan, and I am co-owner of Monica Tolan's The Skin Experts. We have 3 clinics, one in Malahide, Balbriggan and London. I have been working with Environ Skincare since the year dot, I think since 2006. And really that's what we're here to talk about, what we love about that particular brand, and of course about being kind to your skin.
I think it's honestly the most perfect duo because I fell in love and would have come across Environ thanks to you guys. So my name is Jennifer Rock. I'm a skincare facialist, owner of all things The Skin Nerd. The name says it. It's nerdy about skin. And Karina, I did work experience with your mom in 2000, I think it was.
Oh,
yeah. So I would have been in transition year at that stage.
I was in America.
That's
right,
because
you
were saying this the other day, sorry. So my love for skin honestly comes from an awful lot to do with Monica Tolan. Your mom was ridiculously kind to me. And she spoke about you a lot because you would have been trained at that stage, would you?
Yes,
but
I would have
been
been
back in Ireland. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So we really do generally, when people say they go way back, we really do go way back. Yes. And I suppose I really had to passionately really convince people around me that doing beauty and skincare was the right decision. And so I worked for Monica Tolan for a good few weeks in my transition year, and I was a connoisseur cutting up those cotton walls, Karina. Your mom told me so. It's on my LinkedIn profile. But in all seriousness, you guys were always ahead of the game, truly involved in skincare. And so I became across Environ through you guys, and then went on to work in a clinic with Environ, and then have had the absolute honour to have worked with Environ for many a year. And that's when I fell hook, line, overboard, in love with all things skin health. And as this is about, it's all about skin kindness and how to be kind to your skin. And skincare has evolved so much over the last few years. So I think what's really interesting with this is having both of us together who are diehard skincare people that love the nerds, love the science, love the information and the education. So what is it that we love about this brand? Because I think it's testament for 2 people to still love one brand for 15, 16, however many years later. Like that's testament to the brand.
I feel like I've really dedicated my whole career to Environ.
Yeah.
And that's because it's continuously met all my needs, and the results just speak for themselves. And I love its approach to skin and to being kind to the skin, protecting the integrity of the skin. And really, that's what we're all about. I always say, and as much as we love to work with these science-backed formulations and we love the results, skincare is self-care. And I never want to lose that message. Yeah. I remember I was doing a blog post and it was about cleansing. And I wanted to call the subject line, I touch myself. And the company who sends it out, they were like, we cannot put that in the subject line. I was like, it's really important to me because touching yourself and like cleansing is the first step in that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just constantly reiterating that message of I am kind to me, I am worthy, I am loving myself right now, and I'm caring for myself. And that is what we're all about.
This is where I think we're very similar. So for me, skincare is self-care, definitely, but it's escapism for, 60, 120, 180 seconds in the morning and the evening where you just get to mind you. And I think what's really interesting and why I tend to really love Environ's philosophy, and I really do credit so much between your mom, your salon, introduced me to Environ, then Environ has taught me the baseline of everything that I stand for, whether it's looking after my skin inside out, outside in. That's very much an Environ philosophy, treating the barrier, being progressive, somewhat needing patience, which I think in this day and age we don't have by bucket loads. But Environ is a brand that's all about respecting your skin. Everyone knows, I think, that on our channels anyway, that the skin, we always say the skin is an organ, respected accordingly. So it's not about quick fixes, albeit we'd love them. And Environ does have solutions that if you want to feel good today, tomorrow, the next day, but it's really about long-term skin health, minding the barrier, getting those results that aren't superficial, they actually penetrate in and can help things like pigment, redness, and so on and so forth. So yeah, we're definitely aligned.
Well, absolutely, 100%.
If I was to ask you what being kind to your skin means, how would you describe it?
Well, I often have to remind my clients that the skin is an organ.
Yeah.
And I often have to bring it right back and say, well, would you consider doing something like that to your lungs or your kidney?
Or if your heart is in the palm of your hand, would you pummel the life out?
Yeah, literally, would you sand it down or let's suction it?
I know. Yeah, that's true too.
You know?
Yeah.
So it really does bring the client right back. you know, I understand this rush for aesthetics and instant beauty. And of course, particularly now with social media and filters. But for me, being kind to the skin is encouraging your skin to be as healthy and perform its functions as best it can for a lifetime, and to constantly reiterate that message that it is a journey.
Yeah.
It's never about today, tomorrow. It's about that continuous and consistency.
It's investing, or we call it skin vesting, but yes, investing in yourself, I suppose, whether it's time or energy or products. But there's a huge link I find between the emotional wellness. So how I feel in myself can often be impacted by my skin. So we would call it skin tentament. And essentially that's what I think Environ really stands for, is that, and you see it with the before and afters and your before and afters, like that's ultimately why we're here. If we're really cutting the chase, it's all about results. And what results can do is obviously physically make you feel better in yourself, no pun intended, better in your skin. But you then, like the amount of clients that we would have come back saying, like, I get out of bed now without wearing, you know, don't have makeup on immediately, or I can't get over my skin. I look younger in my 40s than I did in my 30s because my pigment is reduced. I mean, those testimonials, those whys, those, you know, reasons that people persevere and continue with it. That's, to me, that's being kind to yourself and being kind to your skin. They're very much in the same world, I suppose.
Yeah, and you know, I do think that mental switch has to occur. You know, I often would say to a client, you know, when she begins the journey to beautiful, healthy skin for a lifetime, that you need to look for signs. You know, we might look at a photograph and all they'll see is a spot. Yeah. And I will literally screenshot that photograph. I will circle all the areas where skin health is emerging.
Yeah, very true. That's
and I'll say, if we focus on where the skin health is emerging, what will happen is you'll stop seeing those spots.
Yeah.
And they'll start to appear far less, and the healing of them will be a lot more rapid. So they will no longer be your focus. I mean, when you take any organ and turn it into a state of good health, it is an absolute joy and it is a massive success and it should be celebrated.
But you're right though, like I look in the mirror, say post-Christmas, and I think, okay, it's sluggish, okay, there's post-inflammatory, everything, but unfortunately we are wired to look at the things that we don't love. I think that's a lovely idea though, to actually look at yourself, take a photograph and see, yes, the areas that you want to work on, and that's fine, but then see the majority of the areas that are in a good place. And I think what's interesting is skin health. I think that word, like Environ was the first brand that taught me that concept. I think up until then for me it was, right, let's hydrate the skin, let's help with redness, let's minimize your pores. Pores are not doors, as we're always known for saying, right? But I think what's really empowering to me is that Environ's about what is skin health. And so when I say to you, like, kindness to skin, and what do you believe we need to do to have healthy skin, I suppose is the $1 million question. But if I was to ask you, how are you kind to skin, or what is skin health? How do you tell a client to achieve it? What would you tell them to do?
Well, it is the small disciplines that you repeat consistently.
Yes. That's the word, isn't it? Consistency.
Yeah. And that is it. But let's go right back there to, you know, Environ first. Let's just speak about the amount of things this brand has pioneered.
Yes.
Because
how long do you have?
Yeah. I mean, that is the true flex of Environ, if you wish. I mean, it was pioneered the use of vitamin A in skincare, and now vitamin A is everywhere.
Yeah, almost to the point that it's so widespread, and thankfully in the last years education has really come through. But you're right, Environ is about education and progressive vitamin A. And I don't know, do you remember the first time you met Dr. Des Fernandes?
Yes, it was in his clinic in Cape Town.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
He didn't know who I was, and I didn't tell him, but I was like,
you
this.
You were bowing down. Genuflecting. No, but he's a gentleman, he's a pioneer, he's so highly qualified. And I think you're right. I think another thing that I believe Environ deserve credit for time and time again is that it's not like one of our favourite products. We brought our favourite products here together. It was like Christmas morning, unboxed them, going, oh, you love that one too, so do I, because it's really interesting to see what your keys are. But Revival Mask, I mean, it's 20 years in the making. So much of the science, it deserves patience, and it really does deliver. And I think that's something they pioneer when we're living in a world where vitamin A is abundant, but when we're living in a world where trends are abundant and people want quick fixes, and it's almost treated like fast fashion.
Yeah.
Whereas So go back to it. Environ is about vitamin A progression. What else would you say they really are the pioneers of?
Antioxidants. Yeah. I mean, antioxidants are so integral for keeping skin healthy. And ultimately for aging of the skin. I mean, you leave your bike. You remember when you were a kid and you're told to take your bike in and not leave it outside? That was because of free radicals.
Yeah, true.
They're ultimately what's going to destroy your new bike. And that is what's destroying us. For any of you that don't know, antioxidants neutralize free radicals. So it's your defense against free radicals. So the use of vitamin A. And you know what I love about Dr. Des Fernandes and of course his team around him. He took this molecule and he knew how important and how vital it was for skin health. And albeit that it had the potential to irritate the skin, he still pushed forward with it. And he created this concept of skin essentia. If you pass me over to skin essentia. Now, trust me, no skincare brand wants to have a moisturizer that has to be divided into 5 parts. It makes no business sense. You know, every brand wants one moisturizer because it's just so much far less expensive to formulate and make. And
an easier concept for people to understand because it's more the norm, I suppose.
And before I start working with Environ, I would have worked with the brands that had the oily skin, the sensitive skin, the dry skin, the mature skin. And that worked from a marketing point of view, etc. And then Dr. Des Fernandes and his team came along with the skin essentia at the time. It would have been Debut Mild, etc. But we now have, and he split that moisturizer into 5 different levels, starting at number 1 right through to number 5. And that was literally to take the client by the hand and to bring them on a journey to encourage their skin, which at this stage, most likely if they're turning to skincare, has started to lose its luster, its vitality, it's maybe starting to age, and its ability to metabolize vitamin A was starting to break down and degrade. So he took that client, he created this line, this ladder system, so that we could literally re-educate our skin on our receptors to open up and accept this vitamin A so that we too, or that client, could then have beautiful, healthy skin. And that is absolutely amazing to do that for the end user.
I think I always imagine the ladder. I remember training years ago, whether it was in London or Dublin or wherever it was in the UK at the time. And I'm asking therapists, because it would have been therapists that I was training, to imagine this visual goal of a ladder. Because we're just trained to want the fastest, the biggest, the best immediately. And so trying to say AVST1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's a progressive system. So stepping up bit by bit, essentially. And I always use the gym as an analogy. And so whereby you might start with your small dumbbells and work up to your medium. And really each stage you get results. It's not about the eye, the prize is the 5 and beyond, but it really is about just ensuring that you gradually bring it in. But the thing that you said there that I think they pioneer is the educational side. I generally stand by the fact that in even my own team, there's a good few, we call them nerds that work for me, so qualified facialists that advise online, and it's always digital. But the point is that they swear by Environ training. Like it in my opinion, it is above and beyond many other brands. I think other brands hopefully will take inspiration, but it's about the consultation. It's how you interact with the client. It's teaching people about their skin so that they can learn it, they can listen to it. They know whether, am I dehydrated? Is my pigment flaring? Okay, I'm going on holidays in a couple of months. What should I do? So literally educating someone to know, right, if I want to work backwards or work forwards, what do I have to do to make sure that my skin is at its best? And I think that alongside the active ingredients, it's a recipe for the success that it has.
Absolutely. And, I often say it's not sexy. It doesn't smell great. It doesn't particularly look beautiful on your bathroom shelf. However, the active ingredients within it are still potent because of that packaging. What I used to love about it in the early days, Jen, before social media and before Environ came the trending skincare brand that it is today, very few clinics worked with it, but I knew that those that did were passionate about healthy skin. Because nothing would attract you to this brand unless you were actually passionate about making your client's skin beautiful and healthy, and you were attracted to results, to actual physical changes in the skin. Environ in that concept really separated the men from the boys, because you had to.
You put your big girl pants on.
You really did put your big girl pants. Like I remember when actually how we were, I think, the second clinic. There was one lady in Cork. I don't know if she's still there, but she had Environ. I think we were the second clinic in Ireland to have Environ. And how it came about was my mum was over in South Africa and her friend who was living there was using it. And my mum came home with it. And she was using it and she loved it. We were at the time working with Declior in the clinic. And my younger sister, who's 5 years younger than me and was never really into skincare, she had started to use it. And she had keratosis pilaris at the side of her face. Okay. So I wasn't paying any attention because honestly, it looked a little bit ugly. It was in an orange squeezy thing. And I was like, it didn't even smell that nice. I was working with an aromatherapy brand. I was like, yeah, no, thank you. But I'm downstairs one day and I hear my younger sister shout up to my mom, that's gone. That stuff was gone. Get me more. It wasn't even in Ireland.
Because she wanted to have.
And I was like,
it was making such a difference to your KP.
So I was like,
that's the why. That's what keeps you. That's the retention.
I was like, that 100%. Works. And she was like, Karina, it's the greatest thing I've ever used. And she at the time had only been in her teenage years. So that was how we came to work with Environ, was that beautiful result, you know. And that was really, we had to search for it to bring it into the clinic. It wasn't even in Ireland at the time. And I sent half my team off on training, and they came back and were like, no way. First of all, you don't even give a client a moisturiser. They have to start at number 1 and then they have to go to number 5. And it doesn't even really smell that great. And I don't think that's going to work at all. And I was like, okay, well, let me see what we think. And I came back with my batch and I was like, oh, we are bringing that in. I was transformed.
But it's interesting that you mentioned the smell a couple of times, because we've actually even trademarked the phrase "smells don't change cells," because I feel so strongly that there is the experiential part of skincare and the experimental, and, you know, really loving that aromatic sense. And there's a place for everybody and everything. But when you really want to get results into the skin, because it smells nice, isn't going to make a difference from an anatomy and physiology perspective. It's not going to help the glycosaminoglycans. It's not going to help the telangiectasia. It's truly not going to make a difference, although it might make you more compliant to using it. So with this, I feel, I remember I was saying on training, I always encourage therapists to celebrate. Like, you need to own this with your client. And to clients, I'd always say, like, actually enjoy that there isn't a smell, because what you're actually putting onto your skin are the ingredients it needs to be the healthiest version of itself. So, you know, and what I often do, even when I'm doing facials, I was doing facials at the weekend and using Environ, of course, and using the machine, and I put essential oils onto my wrists. So you still have that element, but you don't have to necessarily have to have it in the formula, because it's not going to make a difference to your results per se.
Yeah, like my hot mitts are all drenched in lavender oil.
Okay, yeah, so you still can bring it in. You absolutely can.
Yeah, for sure. And literally that is what's in these formulations. Like when you were asking me about what does it mean to be kind to your skin, and it's like, feed your skin exactly what it requires. Give it all the tools it needs every morning and every night. And I do think that's important, Jen. I think you need that daily, because we're exposed to the elements daily. We don't go out 3 times a week. So that is why it's really, really important to use vitamin A every day, in my opinion, to get that result. And that's exactly what is in here. It's the perfect dinner plate, if you wish, of nutrients for healthy skin.
Exactly. I would say it's like a checklist. And for anyone that doesn't know what vitamin A is, and I think it's an important conversation to have, there's so much in the press at the moment about retinoids and retinols, and I think if I go back to, as you said, the pioneer of vitamin A in a topical, i.e. AM, PM regime, is Environ. And so we hear about all these really fast acting forms of vitamin A. But what I think is really important for people to understand is that there's different forms of vitamin A, like a family tree. And so when you give your skin the form that's naturally recognized within the skin, you put it on, your skin understands it. So what does vitamin A actually do? Well, the list is so freaking long. So vitamin A, in my opinion, is what we describe as a non-negotiable. So I would say that cleansing is a non-negotiable, SPF with vitamin A from a treatment perspective is an absolute must-have. So when we talk about vitamin A, I remember years ago, especially at the start of the Skin Nerd, you know, and people would come back and say, so my sister is Karina and she was given, Skin Essential AVST Moisturiser 1. And then I was given it. And my dad, and people couldn't understand, why is nearly everybody being given the same product? And they felt, to be honest, at times, they were like, should I not be getting my dry, and she should get the oily, and I think this is the fundamental part that I love to try to educate. It's actually about the ingredients, and your dinner plate analogy is spot on. There are key ingredients that we need internally as humans to be the healthiest version of ourselves. Now, whether you do it or not in January through to December, I'm not going to judge, right? But we know we should have our fats, our carbs, our water, etc. But the same premise applies at skincare. So your vitamin A, your vitamin C, your antioxidants, and then sprinkling in things like your peptides and so on. So there's the fundamental ingredients that are really going to help lines, wrinkles, pigment, texture, tone, colour, clarity, healing ability. That is why, literally, and I swear to God, I think we've had over 50,000 consults on the Skin Nerd to date. And I really feel that if I was to look back through the data, there might be a couple of people that we didn't recommend Environ Skin Essential A to, because it really is the cornerstone fundamental vitamin A, all the key ingredients in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's huge.
And really, the Skin Essential line, stroke the Youth Essential line, of course, you may not know, but Jennifer has it here.
Earlier.
So how the Skin Essential line came about, Dr. Des Fernandes created this formula as what he wanted was to give his patients something that will make their skin so healthy that potentially could withstand turning into malignant carcinomas or melanomas, because he had lost 2 patients to skin cancer. So he always had this ethos that he wanted to keep it as affordable as possible and for everyone to be able to use it. But of course, then people started seeing these physical changes in their skin. Their skins started to turn this corner, become a lot more youthful, and they wanted more. And they had the budget to reflect that. So Des created the Youth Essential line, which works in exactly the same way as in the ladder system, but it has a type of vitamin A in here that does not exist in Skin Essential and has a lot more, I hate using the term anti-aging, but a lot more skin enhancing and more youthful enhancing skin ingredients in here. And if you have the budget, it's definitely the way to go. So both of these lines are for anyone who has skin that they want to age as best as possible. Please God to age. Aging is the goal here. So that's that. Then once you have any kind of a problem, then this is when skin consultation is so important, because we may need to pivot, just sideline, address different concerns, use different ingredients to address those concerns. And then eventually our hope would be, once those problems per se are gone and have dissipated, our hope then is to bring you back. Because what will happen is your goals will change. It happens all the time in clinic. And then we'll hopefully transition you back onto either or both, hopefully. Eventually, yes, that will be the goal, to have both of these lines involved in your daily skincare routine. But let's talk a little bit about consultation and what you feel is important in a consultation and what makes an effective consultation.
My goodness. Okay, so first of all, I'm a big fan of a consult being filled out in advance, simply because it allows for the therapist to prepare in advance to see as much as they possibly can. So say it's Karina Tolan, and she'll write down, I need to know as much as I can about your past, to be honest, where you've been, how have you found your skin. For me, the emotional link is really important, because I could look at your skin and think, I think it looks really good, but all you see when you look in the mirror is the pigmentation or the redness or whatever your concern may be. So I think a consultation is trying to decipher as much about your past and your present. So where are you currently at? What are you currently using? What is achievable with your time, your money, everything really. And then I love to try and gain a picture of you in its entirety. I don't just need to know that you cleanse, you serum, you and you don't need to lie to me, which can happen. Everyone's like, oh, I drink the 2 litres of water and I cleanse for 60 seconds every day, nipples up all the time. Like, So I really think it's about trying to be truthful, because our goal is not to judge, but just essentially to assist. So we're almost like the medium, if you will, that helps give you the right ingredients and match makes you up to it. And then the future, trying to be realistic about the future. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? So really, if I was to boil it down, within that, there's a lot to do with supplements, lifestyle, diet, stress levels. So we call it intrinsic, extrinsic aging. So the different types of things that affect your skin. So whether it's environmental factors or hormonal. So not that we're qualified, I'll speak for myself here. It's not that I'm qualified as a medic to say what you should or shouldn't do, but the more I understand about your lifestyle and what you're trying to achieve and where you're currently at, the more I can guide you. And I think, and again, back to one of the many reasons, I think you figured out by now, our love for Environ, is that it's all about managing expectations and being realistic with it. It's not a trend-driven brand, although now it's extremely popular, which it deserves to be, but it's not based on trends. It's not a fleeting phase. It's based on science. And as a result of that, when we teach somebody or teach a client what they should or shouldn't do, it's about, right, come back in a couple of weeks, let's check it. Come in for a treatment, let's see how you're getting on. And that is hugely important in a consult, to teach you everything. And the last thing I'd say in consult, because I'd love to hear your version, I feel it's my responsibility to talk to you about everything. So I won't just assume what your budget is and necessarily talk to you about the Skin Essential. I'll talk to you also about the Youth Essential. So it's really important that I give you almost like the whole view of everything you could possibly have, and then we work out what's financially viable, what's time viable, and what your goal is. Because it's our job to empower you to decide what you want to do. It is your skin, not ours. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And our consultation form is 5 pages long, which I often don't say online, because people get almost like, no, I don't have time to fill that out. But I promise you faithfully, the more you put into that form, the more that we can help you. And we really are just there to guide. And it's exactly the same for you guys, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Our consultation form's not 5 pages.
Okay.
But I guess, for me, and let's say, obviously my team as well, but for me doing a consultation, there's certain key things that I need to know at the very onset. First of all, I will need to know if I need to refer you to a doctor straight away. That'd be the first thing. I'm like, is this within my boundaries? I very much stay in my lane. I know what I do, and I do it really, really, really well. But I also know when I need medical support. So the first thing I will do is ask a client, what do they expect? I have learned 25 plus years in this industry that you will never meet a client's expectations until you actually ask them what they are.
What that is. Yeah, what does that look like?
What does that look like to you? Because you would be amazed, as Jennifer has touched on, that unrealistic expectation. So we need to get that out of the way straight away. If they're like J-Lo, Karina, I'm like, listen, girl.
She's a little bit of work. But no, you're the mother of two beautiful girls. And I'm the mother of a beautiful young man. I still can't get used to saying that, but anyway, a boy. And I think what you watch with the next generation is they've grown up with filters and all sorts of tweakments and things being done as the norm. So, but I actually think it affects people in the 30s, 40s more. We're kind of in that generational where we're not sure, is that how somebody actually looks? Should I look like that? Can I look like that? So I agree with you. If people are consumed by this is how flawless I want my skin to look, that word health becomes even more important because lines are normal and we should celebrate them to a degree.
Absolutely.
I get that they don't always make you feel great. Yeah. But redness, okay, to a degree, why is it there? How do you help it? But are you ever going to tell someone, I'll remove your redness, your pigment will be gone forever,
close your pores.
Yeah.
Slam them closed.
Well, I wish. But it's about, it's back to what you're saying, it's educating people about what the realistic parameters. So you asked, okay, so you find out if they're within your remit.
Yeah, first of all, and then what their expectation is. And I find that when you ask a client what their expectation is, it almost grounds them as well for them to be really realistic. Why are they spending this money with me? Why are they here? And it makes them really think about the question, and it may not always, what they answer may not be the reason that they signed up for the consultation, but that's really important from the onset because I'll obviously be referring back to that question, when we've exceeded that expectation, hopefully. And then, of course, their budget, very, very important because you can have beautiful, healthy skin on a very tight budget, particularly with Environ skincare. If you are working on a really, really tight budget, I can devise a plan for you that you would spend €50 maybe every 3-4 months if you need it. And I still promise you that you will be applying more active and more potentially promising ingredients than using any other line. And that can happen. And then, of course, that is going to, when I establish a budget, what will happen is I will recommend so many products, but I will number them. I will prioritize them. And that will obviously reflect the end user's budget as well. I will say, number 1, what you must take today. And then number 2, number 3, and then we'll go on. And just interesting, what you might find interesting, or maybe you'll know all this already, but what you may find interesting is the first thing will most likely be, that will depend on which line your budget is allowed for, but it will either be Skin Essentia or Youth Essentia. But this number 2 will always be either a probiotic or a supplement.
Okay, so you're
because feeding the skin from within is so important, because when you do that, you're making next week's skin or next month's skin. And that's really important. And actually, I only spoke with a client today who previously has been in Environ. It didn't work out for them. They really want to be on it because they see the results that we get. And very, very quickly, which I don't like doing, I'd really much rather that you hit my consultation button, because it's unfair to me. I could be in the middle of homework with my daughter. Do you know what I mean? I could be in the middle of, literally like about to go in to meet a client. And you deserve the time, and I deserve that time as well to sit in that proper environment and do the consultation. But I said to her, we will do 6 weeks of supplementing before we even introduce topicals. And that will be the reason why. It is not unusual at all for me to work on a 6-9 week supplement only program, because the wonderful thing about supplements is you can respond negatively, and it's going to build up that tolerance. It's going to feed vitamin A particularly to the skin cell, and hopefully open up those receptors and top to toe as well. I think the other side,
that's why I remember years ago, actually when we were going to a spa with my mum years ago, and she said, why are they asking me if I'm stressed, and why are they asking about medication? God, they're very nosy. I was like, no, I swear, because it's back to what you said. So there's so many things that are happening systemically. Whether you are stressed, that'll obviously affect the cortisol, that affects your healing ability. Whether hormonal can often affect your temperature, it can affect pigmentation. So it's again trying to understand as much about the person to see what's actually happening inside. Sometimes we don't know. So, but really, I'm a big believer in inside out. And the one thing I'd say about supplementation is, and you know this, I know, and I have to remind myself sometimes, because they're not the only answer, in that you have to eat well. So eating well is probably the key piece, then supplements on top, but sometimes that's easier said than done, right?
Yeah, it is. And let's say like antibiotics, what are they doing? Well, they're destroying all the good bacteria in your gut primarily. So that's why we need to know stuff like that. It can make you light sensitive as well. But I actually only was speaking about this with a client with regards to supplements. Maybe if you are on a calorie counting diet, etc., or if you're mining your calories, well, then you're not going to be looking for taking in a whole lot of good fats, because usually where the omega-3 lies is in high calorie foods. You know, stuff like that as well. And I think you have to be mindful if a client's skin is chronically dry and you know she needs a lot of omega-3, she's probably not going to take in 2,000 calories just on her good fats.
On her good fats alone.
You know, possibly not. But no, for sure, the supplementation and feeding the skin. And you were asking about the diet. Yeah, you know, in an ideal world, if your dinner plate is full of all those nutrients, well then yes, absolutely. If you've got all your fermented food and, you know, your taking your natural
you've got your private chef. And
that's who I follow on TikTok, is private chefs.
No, I agree with you. It's inside out. And I think Environ was the first brand that I came across anyway that really educated on that as well, that it is the inside out. And I think, as you often talk about on stories, Dr. Des Fernandes, the whole concept behind where Environ came from, where the vitamin A came from, was because, as you say, and is the truth, that 2 of his patients unfortunately passed away from cancer at a very young age, and that kind of caused him to look into vitamin A and what it can do. But again, I mean, I'm not saying it's linked in that sense, but when you think about what's happening to you inside, it has a huge impact on you on the outside. So there's no doubt about it. Now, when we brought in our favourite products earlier, I knew that you'd bring in the gold roller. I have to ask. So I tasked Karina and she tasked me with there's so many products within Environ. We could actually do an entire live on each product, like a whistle stop of what they do. But if I was to ask you kind of your go-to key products from Environ that are your must-haves.
My desert island.
Your desert island, yeah.
Well, my desert island is going to be my vitamin A and my antioxidants. So we're going to have to lean into Skin Essential.
Yes.
But I think what you asked me was which product did I feel didn't get enough light, enough love.
And it's the underdog.
Yeah, it's the underdog. And
I know, it's such a good answer. I'm delighted for you. I was like, why did I think of that?
This is exactly my point. Nobody thinks of it.
Yeah. Are you ready? Drum roll, please.
Yeah.
Those of you that have used it will definitely know why Karina is in love with it. But let's talk about it.
Well, you know, I just feel like it is the most underrated product in the whole of Environ line, and it is the Dermalac. We have glycerine, we have urea, and we also have lactic acid at 4.4%. So why do I love this product? Well, it is, as you can see, it's in the body packaging, the green, but it can also be used on the face. It is brilliant as a toner. It is brilliant for pigmentation. It is brilliant to encourage a gentle exfoliation, brilliant for sterilization if you want to inhibit inflammation and breakouts. You can use this product, brilliant for keratosis pilaris, brilliant for hard skin on the elbows, the feet. If you wear false tan, which I love false tan, if you want a lovely even fade off, Dermalac and body oil are your perfect partner. Oh damn it! Just so many reasons why I love this product. You can if you've transitioned from using the body duo or the oil and Dermalac on your skin and you're moving over to the Skin Essential line, you can put a couple of drops in with your Skin Essential. So many ways.
Colitis as well, actually.
Brilliant for colitis, and which is a huge problem.
It definitely is increasingly.
Yeah, I think so too.
Do you love it yet? Can you see why she loves it? But I remember.
Also, can I just say the price point? Look at the size, it's €50.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And look at the size of this product,
200
ml. And like a little goes a long way because it's very liquid.
It's like a water, yeah, it definitely
What
is.
I will say to you about this product, caution please, because if your skin is broken or inflamed, it will sting like a bitch.
Yeah. Or if you just shaved your legs and you put it on, you'll be a few squeals around.
Yeah.
But I remember years ago, same as with clients, they come back and they kind of almost educate you in ways how you can use it. The same as when I was a trainer for Environ. But I remember clients coming back saying, put it onto the area and put cling film on it and just really treat it like a treatment, or use this for 2 weeks prior to your vitamin A oil so that you really help the skin to exfoliate. Because often with, say, acneic or problematic prone skin, I should say, the skin is what's called hyperkeratinized. So the skin just isn't exfoliating itself. And as much as we want to get vitamin A in to balance the oil, help with the pigment, help with natural exfoliation, if the product, i.e. the vitamin A, can't get in, then this is kind of a solution and a stepping stone towards it. But it is probably one of my go-tos. I'm often asked what's my favourite body products. And I think in this island of ours, and if you're watching in the UK as well, obviously between the UK and Ireland, we neglect the body, but I think this is an amazing, it's like a leave-on exfoliating treatment for the body, and as you say, for the face also. Yeah,
and bear in mind also because it has lactic acid in there, which is one of my favourite acids, AHAs, but you are a little bit more light sensitive when using it, so, level up with your SPF.
S to the B to the F.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like the pressure's on now. So I've actually doubled up. Well, first of all, absolutely categorically without a shadow of a doubt.
Desert island.
Vitamin A, yes. So whether you go for whichever range you go for, but yes, absolutely vitamin A. And one thing I do want to say about this is, because I've been misquoted so many times in the press, I don't necessarily always feel that you need to have an eye cream. Now, we did both bring one of our go-to eye creams. So this is, I always call it the blue bottle, apologies Environ, but it's the Vita Peptide Eye Gel. But this, especially we talk about people on a budget, we talk about the cost of living now more than ever, this is ideal across the eye, like absolutely everyone, nipples up as we always say. Don't forget the earlobes, because I always think when I get to 90, I'll start to conscious that the earlobes are
also, a lot of
sag
skin
ever so
cancers
slightly.
occur on the earlobes.
Ears,
a lot of carcinomas.
lips and
yeah,
nose, isn't that
exactly.
the
So
highest
for
thing?
that reason alone.
So this is essentially like your neck, lip, face, eye serum all together. So that's why I'm a big fan of that. But what I really like to talk about, and what I think, so it's not that it's necessarily my favourite product in Environ, because there's honestly so many that I could be here for. We were talking beforehand about, look, we both have the same one. And this was not prepared. But it's the roll kit. I think that when I say it's not one of my favourites, what I mean by that is I think there's so many in Environ that I would come back to as my go-to. But I think what makes Environ different to other products, and when we talk about vitamin A, and we spoke about this at the very beginning, what starts to happen with the different forms of vitamin A, not necessarily retinol per se, is that the skin itself becomes what they call more compact. So we were talking about this before we went live. The word compromise barrier, I think, on TikTok, well, it had like hundreds of millions of views last year. It's a word that's perhaps not as understood. Essentially, going back to what Environ's all about and how it has been, hasn't changed, just is, it's about maintaining the skin's health. And what that means is the top layer of the skin should essentially be, and you'll remember this, I'll never forget this analogy because it was instilled into me by all things Environ. If you imagine your skin cells to be like, I know you're the woman, this is the woman for analogies. Here's me giving an analogy to the queen of analogies. But essentially your skin cells should look underneath a microscope like a little kind of roof. So all the tiles are kind of compact together and sealed in. So if you think about it, in a house, it keeps everything in that should and everything out that shouldn't. And the same premise applies at skincare. But the beautiful part with vitamin A is that when you start to actually use vitamin A, and particularly as you start to step up through the different levels, those tiles become so compact, so together, so firm, which then means that you have this undeniable dewy glow. You can see the health, the skin is
Vitamin A
healthier.
glow, that Environ glow.
It is undeniable. I remember being in IAAA in HQ in London as a trainer, and we were obviously, I don't know, apologies to Claire, your training director is going to hear this now. I wasn't Skyping Claire at the time, I promise. But I remember all the trainers were together, and we literally sat there and were able to tell like who used higher levels of vitamin A or not, because there is an undeniable glow because of the skin cell compact.
You go to Salon of the Year awards and everyone just glows.
Well, you're definitely an au fait person. Like I don't know, it's been a year in the last decade that you haven't won. It's a credit to you.
Oh, thank you.
But the vitamin A, going back to where I'm going with the roller, is that when you start progressing up ABST2, 3 and beyond, your skin is so healthy at this stage that it's arguably harder for that same ingredient that you really wanted the skin to get in. And so that's where the roller becomes so much more important. And why I brought the body roller is I think it's the underdog. So the roller itself is not to be confused, and we'll talk about it in a second. You spoke earlier about what does Environ do? That's the pioneering piece. Well, to be honest, Dr Des Fernandes is known as the father of microneedling, isn't he? But this is what we call home rolling. Not to be confused with what you can get online, not to be confused with what Karina can do to you in a salon, but essentially it's a tool that when you apply it, it's almost like a gateway. So you cleanse, your skin's completely clean, toned, etc. And then you roll. And I always remember it's like an asterisk, isn't it? So you kind of roll sideways, upwards and obliquely. So it's literally like you're drawing little asterisks all over the face, across the brows, through the eyes, over the eyelids, should I say, across the lips. Don't forget the lips. Honestly, putting vitamin A onto the lip means that you need a lot less lip balm. People always forget the lips. But this is probably my go-to for that exact reason, because this tool allows your vitamin A to penetrate into where you want it to get to. And it really is an important piece to ensure that you're truly on the level up. And the same to be said for the body. It really is.
Yeah, the whole paradox, of course, of vitamin A, like you said, is that it makes the skin so healthy and compacted that it's a big struggle to get in. But even still, getting the skin as an organ is not meant to be transported through. So one of the biggest struggles, as you know, creating skincare is actually getting the product into the skin. So as I often say to a client, you're spending a lot of money on this product. It's really important that you get the greatest return for your investment. You want as much of this product to be absorbed into the skin as possible. The wonderful thing I love about these tools is they're a one-off purchase. So what's different here is the depth. The deepest is 0.2 millimeter, which is what the gold roller is, and the body roller is 0.2. And then this one here is 0.1 millimeter. Just enough to create little channels in the very outer layers of the skin, the stratum corneum, so that your product can shoot right into those little channels and be as effective and do its job as best as possible. Environ Skincare, they hire like a Swiss agency to randomly test their formulations for dosage and for potency. So the least you can do at that point is ensure that you get it into your skin as deep as possible, so it can do all of its hard work. And that's exactly what's going to happen with these tools. And honestly, the results are so phenomenal when you are compliant with your home roller. I often say to clients, they'll say to me, "Oh, Corinne, I haven't used it in ages." I'm like, listen, I am okay with that, because when you go back to using it, you will see
You'll
the
fall
change.
in love all over again.
Absolutely.
I remember a client / friend at one stage, this was a good few years ago, was telling me, "No, Jennifer, I'm on AVST5, but I haven't quite, I'm not really religious with the rolling element." And I was like, right, okay. So anyway, long story short, she decided to go from 0 to hero, which you should not do. And she started really rolling and putting her AVST5 on every single night all of a sudden. So she didn't kind of slowly bring it back in. My goodness. All I can say is that that's not advisable, but it definitely to me showed how, although she was on AVST5, because she wasn't doing all that she could or should be doing ideally, she wasn't getting the true benefits, everything you spoke of. So I do think home rolling is definitely an underrated piece. I think we, myself included, can fall into a habit of applying a product but not using the tool that'll help me to truly penetrate it in. And the body one for me, when I started using this years ago, we'll go on to needling now. I remember in London in the IIAA, I can't remember what trainer it was, but a fellow trainer needled my stomach. And I'm obsessed with microneedling. Again, I've been misquoted in the press saying that I would die happy with a needle in my hand, which really doesn't bode well. Microneedle. But the home rolling version essentially means that you can prep your skin as best you can. Or if I know that I'm going, let's say I'm going abroad in April, I'm going to be really honest, I'm probably not great in December, January, but February, March, I am there and I'm rolling. I'm using my Dermalac. I'm also using my body oil, but I'm rolling in advance to make sure that those ingredients are truly getting into the skin. So I think that's why I chose it. I think they're not, but in my opinion, they're often not spoken about as much as they could.
And if you want to conduct a little home experiment as to how effective these are, simply use Dermalac normally, then come along, home roll, and then apply your Dermalac, and then you will feel that stain.
You'll know. You definitely would know.
Yeah, I remember someone saying to Dr. Des Fernandes, "Does it really do anything?" He said, "Try rolling before applying Revival."
Oh, yeah.
And it is true.
But when you haven't rolled in a couple of weeks, which sometimes does happen, life gets in the way, or you've been unwell and so on and so forth, and then you start rolling again, you definitely know. But what I want to stress before we move on to actual microneedling, this does not cause the benefits, if you will. It's the product you apply there after. So this is just your medium, your channel, your gateway, if you will, to get that same vitamin A and all those benefits into the skin. However, the father of microneedling, that is Dr. Des Fernandes, and I think I had come out at different times to the Balbriggan clinic and had needled you, or am I imagining?
You came to Malahide.
Was it Malahide?
Yeah, I went to your house once.
Oh yeah, so we definitely like needling, right? There's no doubt about it. But and this is where I think Environ definitely differs to other brands insofar as that I definitely do love needling. There's no doubt about it. I think it's really important. I think there's so much science to say, do you need blood? Do you not need blood? But I would go back to and defer to everything that Environ trains within it, because the person that's training you or the brand that's training you is derived from the man that created it, and his books are phenomenal on it. But I think it's important that your skin is prepared for it. And I think that's probably where it differs massively compared to others. So for me, microneedling isn't the only option. It should be ideally that you're doing your home care, ideally having your DF facials, having your skin in a place that when you then cause this controlled microtrauma with a view to having slight little blood droplets, that you get that growth factor into the skin. It helps with lines, wrinkles, and you'll think, she just said that about vitamin A, but it's an extension of, and it's getting into the dermal layer, i.e. where skincare can get to here, the home roller will help it to get in, like making sure it's truly getting into that top layer. You can't really get further than that unless you're in a clinic environment, and that's where the machine comes into play, and that's where microneedling, as in the actual clinic treatment, comes into play. Is it a really popular treatment for you guys this time of the year? Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. So CST, collagen stimulation therapy. The tool looks very similar to this. If this is 0.1 millimeter, the tool we use for CST treatment in clinic is 1 millimeter, and we would use a topical anaesthetic with it because it can be very uncomfortable. You can, of course, do it.
Have you ever done it without?
I think I have. I sat on my hands, but I have. Yeah,
CST,
definitely remember.
Because I call it microneedling, but you're right, the Environ way is called collagen stimulation therapy, and the name says it. It stimulates your collagen.
Yeah,
so
your
whether
collagen forms.
Yes.
And of course, as Jennifer said, what's key with skin needling is that your skin is in a really good state of health. As I'd often say, if you had a scheduled cardiac surgery, and if you were overweight, your doctor would ask you to lose weight in preparation for that surgery. He would want you to come in for that surgery in the best health possible to get the best outcome from the surgery. It's exactly the same with a CST. We ask your skin to be as healthy as possible because all we're asking your skin to do is respond to a trauma. And your health will decide how well your skin responds to a trauma. Of course, vitamin A is the greatest catalyst for all these events, for the production of collagen and hyaluronic acid. So what happens with the needling is at 1 millimeter, it's CST, we create controlled wounds, and your skin, of course, being a defensive organ, responds to a wound by producing massive amounts of collagen. So we get a complete regeneration of the skin. And almost, I'm going to say it has been my experience, that it almost re-educates the skin to the point where, so I would have let's say a client presents to me with problem skin. We put her on a program. Now problem skin is no longer her concern. She may now have new goals, be it pigmentation, be it scarring, be it just wanting to have the most beautiful, youthful skin now that she no longer has blemishes on her skin. So we will then do something like a CST treatment. And what has happened in my experience is it completely re-educates the skin, and the skin no longer behaves as it used to. So we would do it for collagen induction to plump out the skin, to help with scarring or post-inflammatory pigmentation, which is amazing for. And then also in the hope that the skin forgets it was ever problematic as well.
I think the word or the term re-educate is probably my favourite in terms of CST. But I stand by what I said, which I think you're echoing. It's about having your skin in somewhat of a healthy state so that you can then challenge it further. And often I'm asked who can't get it done, to be honest, when the skin is active with problematic skin or pustules or bacteria. But I personally found it, and there's a lot of studies to say that it helps downregulate and essentially helps with pigment in the skin. It definitely helps with pores. Because if you think about pores, the common misconception of pores is that they're just specifically those of us, myself included, that are quite oily prone, whereas actually a dilated pore is often elasticity, so it's a skin it's starting to,
which is why my 12-year-old
stretch.
has no pores.
But those of us that aren't
that aren't 12 anymore,
quite age, exactly.
And that's it. It is an almost relaxation of the collagen, and then you get that slightly enlarging of the pores, but the pore doesn't actually have a muscle. Your erector pili muscle, which is what gives you goosebumps essentially when you get a shiver, that's the only muscle that would be there. So there's no muscle in the pore, so it doesn't open and close. Actually, let's not move off microneedling without speaking about Revival Mask, because as we said, Dr. Des Fernandes is the pioneer of microneedling, and this particular Revival Mask, I believe, is second or third. I think it's second generation, and he's currently working on third generation, I've been told. And he hasn't actually told me himself. Well, sometimes he slides into my DMs. I love to see him there.
Favourite name slide.
Literally. You know, your face lights up when you get a notification. It's Des Fernandes for me. So what Des wanted to do, he wanted basically to create CST, collagen stimulation therapy, or microneedling in a jar. And that's what he has done with Revival Mask. It was renowned in the industry to be a facelift in a jar. And you may or may not know that it was screenshotted and sent to me, a photograph of this on Bella Hadid's. So you know that I am Bella Hadid. Yeah. We are Bella Hadid when we use our Revival Mask. Yeah, it was on her bath tray. So I'm not surprised, because it is the most amazing.
Do you just happy dance when you see those moments?
You know what? Oh my
God,
proud Jennifer.
piece, isn't it?
A little bit of me is so protective of Environ.
Yeah.
That I'm just like I love it, and obviously I love my little circle, but when it gets that kind of shine, it is amazing. But I'm also like,
there's a bush, isn't there?
There's
a bush, and you should have a bush. No, I understand.
No, I do love it.
The premise of it as a brand isn't often, it's not comparable to others. So you're probably protective, wanting everyone to say, okay, but I need you to know
she's
that
using
there's
it
so
properly.
much more. Exactly, there's so much more to it than just this. So hold fire.
Exactly, and I would take it personally if there was ever any shade.
Yeah,
I know that's wrong, but it's like a child for me.
She has your back.
100%. And actually, let's not move off that till we speak about how this brand is only as good as the person as how knowledgeable and well educated the person who's using it. And that's not just the professional that you go to, which is so important, but also you as a client of Environ. You owe it to yourself to learn as much about this brand, to understand the concept of how it works, because without that fundamental understanding, you won't ever get the most out of it. But once you do, it's like a bottomless pit.
Yeah, you won't go back.
Where you can go with it.
I think, though, again, and in the most complementary way, because there's so many ways to use it. So because I'm often asked, how do I use it? So you can, and the same with the roller, how many times and how often do I use retinol. So it really is, this is where it goes back to, I totally agree. I think it's about trying to know your skin as best you can, because it's not one size fits all for Environ. Some people can get up to their, I always say AVST5, I call them the older names, and their retinol 3 and their roller, and then some, and use it every single night. But then some people can't quite get there, and that's okay. You'll still get phenomenal results. Or revival mask. Some people can use it just as a mask, some sleep in it, some roll with it, some don't. But that's a beautiful part as a therapist, that you can really look and listen to the skin and say, well, you can do this, this and this, but we're going to work you towards that. So it's like, it's like a goal, like your work, it's exciting, addictive and exciting.
And for sure, that is being kind to your skin. Someone will slide into my DMs, I've just finished AVST2, am I ready for AVST3? And I'm like, don't ask me, ask your skin. Look in the mirror. Tell me, is your skin showing any signs of resistance? Is it like AVST2 was the best thing you've ever done for me? Are you glowing from head to toe? Is it radiant? Is it tight? Is it dry? Is there a little bit of redness? Do you have any kind of itchiness or tightness? They're all the signs that will tell you. So your skin, I'm pretty good, but your skin is ultimately what will tell you what it loves. And with Revival Mask,
I'm pretty good, but your skin really knows. Your skin's amazing. It is. But the skin, don't get me started on the skin. The skin itself is an amazing barometer.
100%. So with Revival Mask, what's important to know with it, like, first of all, I did say to Des that I don't really love the word mask on it, because we all have this concept of what a mask is, and it's, our hair treatment is in and we have this maybe clay mask or a really hydrating mask, and that's not what's going to happen here. So what Des has done, he's put a combination of 3 different acids in here to almost mimic an attack on the skin. And when you mimic or threaten or slightly stress the skin, it goes into defense mode, and that is massively accelerating collagen production and the fibroblasts, which produce elastin and collagen. That's what's happening here. And with my skin, what it may take to ignite that catalyst of events for me is totally different to someone else. So you must very much listen to your skin with this product. Obviously, if you're a first-time user, go 10 minutes, put it on clean skin and take it off, and just listen, look, feel, take note of how your skin is. You will get tolerant. And that's the whole thing with Environ. One of the reasons why I love it. You're never bored. You're never using the same thing all the time. You're constantly progressing with the brand as your needs and goals change, which your skin will do over a lifetime. So you will adapt it, and you'll get to a stage where you're like, 3 days of Revival and I'm going to look popping on Friday night.
Definitely. If I have something that I wouldn't say forgotten about, that's so terrible, right? But you're like, oh goodness, it's Saturday.
I have to go out.
Something now. People have to see me. That one is definitely in my absolute go-tos. And for me, and we spoke about pores not being doors, and we spoke about pores being elastin and collagen and the stretch and so on, and more pro-aging, or should I say anti-aging in this sense, because we don't want them. But this mask definitely for me makes a huge difference, because I would have quite a lot of dilated pores on my forehead and my nose, my chin, basically most of my face bar, my sidelines, right? And this makes a huge difference. So it's
particularly if you roll before using it, but you're not going to do that initially. And of course, you're going to use this with supervision of your professional skincare consultant. So
one last thing though, I suppose, because Revival Mask is obviously, as they say, a facelift in a jar. And we spoke about home rolling, but there's the treatment side of it. And I think when I cast my mind back to being a trainer, or even as we spoke about consultations earlier, a lot of our clients would go to Environ salons. And I think the main thing that I love to say, people always say to me, like, what's the one message you wish you could get across? And for me, for Environ, it is that if you're someone who's on AVST2, 3, 4, 5, your treatment in clinic will vary depending on what you're using at home. So that same step up, level up piece that we adore with the home care should be ideally mirrored in a treatment perspective. And I think that's probably, I'm going to own this, I don't talk about that as much. And I feel that we should, because and for those that haven't had an Environ-based facial, the DF machine is really I personally find it the most relaxing thing ever, but it's not there to be relaxing. It's actually there to penetrate the product into the lower layer of the skin. And so when you're on lower levels at home, you can have a really active treatment in clinic, but as you step up, it gets more and more active. So you really get to take advantage and tailor make what you do in clinic to home. And I think that's something to be celebrated. It's not just a one size fits all, I get this treatment, and it's the same each time. It's truly, in the namesake, it is bespoke, and that's not a word I say very easily or rare. I really don't love that word because it's overused, but it really, really is with Environ.
Well, I could see the same client 6 times and never do the same Environ treatment on her twice. That
says it all, though, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I could see her 12 times and never do the same treatment twice. And we will adapt the treatments in clinic to reflect your home care and also to reflect your lifestyle. Like, you're getting married next Wednesday, it's going to be a completely different treatment than you're getting married in 6 months' time. Are we playing the short game? Are we playing the long game?
Do you know, I was only asked to be bridesmaid about 6 times in my life because of Environ. I'm convinced, I swear to God, on like my son's life. So because there's always this question in the press, isn't there? How often should I, when should I get my last facial before a big day, before a wedding? And obviously everyone's quite careful. And maybe you disagree with me on this, but I genuinely feel, hey Rona, I genuinely feel that if I was to get married tomorrow morning, I would have had an I'd do Environ through the sauna, through the probe that day with the alginate mask and Ionto, because there's nothing like it, in my opinion. As much as we talk about Environ being long term, there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing like that mask. I actually did it. I'm doing Dancing with the Stars skincare, and I brought Environ, did alginate mask on a person who remained unnamed, and a little bit of the alginate mask on their cheeks, and the redness just calms out. It's just with vitamin A underneath, obviously. But my point is, I think that's a key part. If you're someone who's a diehard Environ user and aren't getting treatments or are looking to get treatments, just be aware that you can chat and talk to your therapist about, are they stepping it up? Are they leveling it up? Are they challenging your skin? Because that's when genuinely magic happens.
Yeah, for sure. No more than a PT would put a program together. We should be looking to put a program together for your skin, and it will correlate with your home care. As you progress up to the levels, what we will induce into the skin using the microcurrents will reflect that also. There's also, neither of us brought it today because, well, first of all, I've lent mine to my sister-in-law while I was on holidays.
Well, you're a very kind sister.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she's like, do I need it? I was like, take it off me for a week, see what you do. Yeah. So it's basically like a home microcurrent device. It's called a DF mobile device from Environ Skincare. And what it's doing is it is a tool that we use, or that you would use, to enhance the penetration of your formulations into your skin. Going back to, these products are absolutely amazing, but the biggest struggle they have is actually going deep into the skin. And particularly as they work initially and then, of course, make your skin healthier, the struggle is real. So we like to employ different tools and modalities to enhance penetration. Of course, we covered microneedling being one, but if you were to microneedle, apply your active serum, whatever it is, and then use your DF device, you will get an incredible result. And yeah, like that, as a bride, you could definitely do that the night before your wedding.
So you're saying home rolling?
Yeah, home rolling, and then the DF device. And there is so many, I think, again, going back to the pandemic, there are so many tools and devices on the market now. Huge.
That size the market is growing.
Yeah, but what I love about the DF device is, Jennifer, a lot of the tools that are out there right now are looking to work with the muscles on the skin and looking to lift the skin, which is all wonderful and all if you're using them literally every day.
That's
because, I often say, if you think free radicals or the sun is aging us, the greatest thing to age us is gravity. So you're standing up, and gravity is pulling on everything that this little handheld device is trying to lift.
Forever.
No, walk in your hands, Jennifer.
I love it. Turn into a gymnast. Skin gyms.
We need to trademark that. But that's exactly what happened with the DF mobile device. It is as effective as you use it. So even if you only use it once, you're going to get 100% results from that 15, 20 minutes that you use it.
So why you love it, if I'm listening to you correctly, is that you don't, like, obviously to be consistent with it is always going to be best, but what you love is that you can get a result from just that one time of usage because you're already building the foundation with your daily use of your Environ as is.
I'm literally loving it because it works. There's so much BS out there that literally the change, if there is even any, is minuscule, and literally you'd want to have all day to use these devices to get any kind of a change. With the mobile DF device, it's as good as the product that you're using. So be that your retinol, your hydrating serum, your frown serum, which is amazing. Actually only seen recently on a live with Dr Des Fernandes, he said it's his favourite, not enough light shining the focus frown, which is brilliant, And
as a treatment, it's honestly remarkable.
This
is what I mean. This is why I think I was asked bridesmaid so many times, because my promise as a bridesmaid is that I would do the focus frown and I would do like quite a speedier treatment compared to normal, let's say. But the results are imminent and just... I'm not like anyone we have this joke within my best friends from home. We can tell the brides that I was bridesmaid for versus that weren't, and I love them all equally. But there is that undeniable glow, and I do think to get a facial the day before the day of, when you've been using it for so long, that in itself is testament to that red carpet VIP glow that we all crave, I suppose.
Jennifer, I'm just going to point out the difference between me and you. My brother rang me actually about Revive a Mask. Somebody in work was asking, and he was asking me about it and how much it was. And I said, Ivan, if someone says to you, do you know crenatolin, you're to say no.
Okay. Why? Because you're on.
I had to ring the lady then, and I just say no, Ivan. I say no, never heard of her. That's not the same
tone.
tone.
My sister at all. Good luck with that. I don't think that will wash at all. But it's all about results. If I was to go back, so if we were to kind of summarize, because we're going to go into your questions now, because you sent some through, and we have like a quick fire fixing questions around too.
Okay.
Being kind to your skin, I think we both agree, is essentially treating the skin as an organ. It's listening to your skin. It's educating yourself. And then as a therapist, going to someone that's going to educate you on your skin. It's definitely vitamin A. It's a non-negotiable SPF cleansing. So being simplistic in your approach, but being consistent with it. Is that how you... I think that's where we align. That's essentially kindness, isn't it?
Absolutely. And realising that your journey is yours, and it is, you're unique, and your journey is also unique. And to listen to your skin and not be in any race, for results. It is a journey. We want you to comply with it for a lifetime. So enjoy the process. Happiness is not the end goal. Happiness is the journey.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that, if ever there was a brand that coincides with that, it's this one, because of all the different variations that you can take within it.
Yeah, you're never going to be bored.
And definitely never going to be bored, that's for sure.
Will we go here?
Let's go here. Right. So we had a couple of questions. Because I think what I generally love about our relationship and how long we've known each other is there's so many ways to treat skin. There's a lot of kind of quite aggressive ways. There's fast track ways. Whereas I think what you and I do is very much align on progression, skin health, listening and ploughing the skin with the key ingredients it needs. So we put together like a quick fire round. You will see how aligned we absolutely are. Are you ready? Okay. So to acid or not to acid. Now this could be a whole live by itself. So let's try.
Yeah, to build your skin up, make it really, really healthy. How I speak about acids, it's kind of like, raising a child. It's the daily consistent whispers and the occasional shout. Okay, you're constantly shedding, you're going to destroy that child, and you're going to have a very sad adult. Whereas, constantly encourage and daily whispers, and then the occasional shout is ultimately the key. And so as long as you're feeding your skin what it requires to be healthy consistently in low dose, ultimately aiming for high dose, non-irritating forms of these ingredients, well then absolutely yes, we may need to incorporate acids to trigger growth factors and for sterilization and for a mild exfoliation at some point in the future.
That's where we're aligned. I think acids have a place in a controlled manner in the correct usage for the correct person. And I think it's knowing why you're using it. Whereas I think unfortunately what's happened over the last few years is this misinformation, this quick fix of if I over acid, I feel smoother, I feel hydrated, I feel plump immediately. And the best analogy that I've ever heard on it, you probably have the queen of analogies, as I keep referring to her here as, but you do have an amazing way of breaking it down to the client, is that if you think about a glass of water and you leave it on a table for a couple of days, it starts to evaporate. And the same premise applies when you start exfoliating your skin. You're letting the natural reservoir of water that you have inside to just evaporate out of the skin. So for the first day or so, you feel smoother, you feel more polished. But if you're doing it repeatedly, should I say, what starts to happen is that you start to become more dehydrated, but then you think, oh sugar, I should exfoliate tonight, and you keep going with it. So I do believe in exfoliation, I just don't believe in over exfoliation, and that's the key differentiation as I would see it.
I think exfoliation is a cheat for skin health. It doesn't give you healthy skin.
Isn't it?
Yeah, literally. Yeah. And we all occasionally may require it. If you've been a little bit lax, let's say with your home needling, or maybe for whatever reason anyway, and next thing you do, suddenly you're going out on Saturday night, couple of times a year, a mild exfoliation when it's not going to make your skin feel tight, dry or sensitive is not the worst thing that can happen. But depending on physical or manual exfoliation to have beautiful glowing skin is actually a cheat, because all you're doing is exposing an immature skin cell that is not equipped with the tools it requires to make you healthy. It's kind of like sending a very young child to answer a door to a stranger. Would you do that? So why would you expose your younger, albeit more beautiful and aesthetically pleasing and plump cells to do the work of a corneocyte that actually has all the tools it requires?
To double cleanse or not to double cleanse?
Oh, yeah. Cleansing is so important in the sense that it's really important that you, again, I touch myself. It's the first time that you touch yourself. It's it should be a pleasurable experience. I think, again, a lot of people over cleanse or reach for those aggressive cleansers. And there was a time when toners would have a high alcohol content or a low pH, and they would have stung. And if it didn't sting, it didn't work. And that's gone. Cleansing, absolutely, and double cleansing is the most beautiful It's the most beautiful thing, isn't it?
I
It
love the
feels
touch myself
gorgeous.
concept, because you're right, because all day, every day, we're go. Obviously, we're touching ourselves throughout the day, but we're not taking that moment actually. And this sounds slightly more, I suppose, holistic than the science-led piece that Environ is, but we both are therapists by background. It is taking that moment just to actually stop, breathe, and have a moment with yourself, and actually just truly be there in that moment to go, right, what am I doing? And I adore cleansing. It is definitely my favorite thing to do by night, whether you're trained or not, but like really like using the whole palm of your hands, get in and really like massage it out, right? Yeah, and enjoy it, and then see all the mascara all over the place.
You love it, love that.
And then
bit.
the satisfaction of truly thoroughly removing it. Yeah, adore.
amazing.
And the one thing I'd say, which is an unsexy answer about cleansing and double cleansing, is that when you truly degrease, if you will, the skin, whether it's your SPF or whether it's your makeup, whatever it is, oil, pollution, debris, dust, dirt that might have been sitting on the skin throughout the day, you'll then get the better penetration. So if everything, if we've been talking about, whether it's your vitamin A, your home roller, whether it's your revival mask, whatever it is, we're trying to get those active ingredients into the skin to cleanse thoroughly, is the least sexy thing, but it truly does make a difference.
Absolutely. And bearing in mind that your SPF and your makeup, etc., are usually fat based, so will require a fat to break that down. So that's where your first step, being a pre-cleansing oil, is going to come into play. And also, one of the questions that we got in was, do you believe in merging brands? And yes, you absolutely can lean on another brand for different reasons. But if you want to get that harmonious effect, it is better to use products with cleansers that are all preparing your skin, like the cleansers, the pre-cleanse oil, the cleansers, the toners within Environ Skincare. Everything within those products is to prepare your skin for ample penetration of the actives that follow afterwards.
Just checking the questions that I'd gotten through, because some of them were similar to yours. A lot of them were about peeling, which we discussed. Some of them were about penetration, treatments, facials, microneedling. So I think we've covered an awful lot of them, to be honest. I think the last question I'd love to ask you, if I may, is that we talked about skin health, and we talked about I suppose our philosophies towards skin, where we very much align, and I think that's why we both adore Environ so much. But what is your skin mantra? Like, if you were to say to the majority of people watching, like, what's your one thing that you wish people would take away?
Okay, so my mantra is small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements, gained slowly over time.
Not dissimilar, I suppose, and this is something you touched on earlier. For me, it's outside in and inside out, and whether you perceive inside to be diet, supplementation, how you speak to yourself, treating the skin from top to toe is a key part, and treating the skin as an organ. And I really love your point, and I think this is where we align. It's about enjoying it. So skincare shouldn't be a chore per se. And I totally get that you might be coming from an angle where your skin doesn't feel great. You don't feel great about yourself. But I promise you faithfully, the one question that did come through that made me chuckle yesterday on the question box was, what's the one thing you'd recommend? And I was like, there's never been a person that I've met, whether it's been in face-to-face, whether it's been online, wherever, that I haven't recommended an Environ product to. And to me, that's testament to, I will always, time and time again, come back over a decade later to this brand, because it's one that I'm always so proud to put my name alongside, because it truly does deliver and get those results that we all deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is a privilege to serve on the front line like we do, and to get to meet the end users. And yeah, I'm so grateful for the brains, the science behind the brand that create these formulations. I often say that I feel every day I go to war, to solve all these skin issues that my clients present with. And
you sound like Roy Keane. Yeah. Did you see him the other night?
I did.
Like, yeah, but
love that first date.
Is it? Yeah. Oh my God, he's brilliant. No, just try right in the back. You haven't watched. You need to watch Tommy Turner with Roy Keane. But he describes going to like football, like that was a passion piece for him, going to war with obviously from a soccer perspective. But you're essentially treating the skin, and you battle it. I think you share that with a client. I see that online. If I came to you as a client, I know that I can trust in you that you will do absolutely everything you can in your power to make me feel the best version of myself.
I've even said to one or two clients, and if we don't, I'm going to take you by the hand to Cape Town. And unfortunately, I haven't had to do that as of yet.
Well, I'll happily go to Cape Town with you, to be honest. Not a bother. Yeah, you can imagine. Hi, Dr. Des, we're here. Because the first time I met him, I'll finish on this note, and I promise I'm far more serious than this allows it to say. But I remember it was at a conference in London when I was working for the IIAA for Environ, and he walked in. I was struggling. I'm 5'3", so I'm like, those pop-up banners are quite hard to reach. So I was struggling to put the pop-up banner on. The girls are all having, yourself, getting ready for an event. We're all having the crack, and they're laughing at this little human over there trying to do it. Dr. Des came in. It was like, he helped me with the banner. And I know that sounds like such a simple thing, but to me, that was just a gentleman that truly cares about many different things. Could have walked by. The man is extremely successful. Didn't need to help me with the banner. But that to me was testament to we're working and recommending and endorsing a beautiful human that that has an amazing brain that is science driven, and the brand does all that it's supposed to do and more. So if you haven't tried it, I don't know what else we can say to encourage you to do it. And I think the fact that, as I keep going back to the fact that we're recommending it so long is a testament. It's not a fleeting love or craze. It's a long-term respect.
Absolutely. And also, if you're in the industry, working in the industry, and if you're passionate about skincare, you really are doing yourself an injustice by not familiarising yourself with this brand. But before we go, just come back to your mantra, inside out, outside in. I have to tell you this story before we leave. About one time I was training with Jennifer. She was my tutor. I can't remember what the course was, but I was in a training course with Jennifer, but it was in Rush in Dublin, and I was going straight afterwards. You remember this?
Oh, you're good.
To a gym class. Now, it was a gym class mainly with men. Not that matters.
I can't believe you say this story.
So I'm wrapping up and I'm getting ready to go to the gym, and I realise I've forgotten my top, my t-shirt, And Jennifer's like, "Oh, Queen, it's fine." She goes over to this mannequin and takes off a t-shirt with the digestive system on it, finishing with the anus. I put it on.
I mean, what else would you want to wear to a gym class? So when we say we believe in inside out and outside in, we definitely do.
We wear it.
Queen actually sported it in public. Did I ever get that back, actually? I love it. Thank you so much for
I shouldn't have brought it up.
No, I love it. It's actually one of my favourite memories. I'll never forget watching it going, God almighty, that's amazing.
It's like sometimes I go to the supermarket on my way home from work and I could have an eyebrow tint on. I'm like, nobody would notice. I'm here to gym class. I'm like, they wouldn't even notice. They're like, what's on your t-shirt?
I know, but it was quite a graphic t-shirt. It was essentially explaining supplementation, where they digest, how you can get the best from it. Yeah, honestly. But yes, we'll do another one again entirely, I'm sure, on Inside Out. But she'll wear the t-shirt actually by popular demand.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I hope you had as much fun as we had, and we will have to repeat.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, me too.
Absolutely.
Me too. Take care, everyone.
See you soon.
Take
guys.
care. Bye bye. Bye bye.